Greetings, Crocoduck Army. I was wandering the virtual streets of YouTube last week and decided to wander into the land of the right-wingers. I ran into Lee Doran there and his YouTube channel humbly entitled How the World Works. I'd heard of him years ago and remembered him as a right-wing libertarian, but it had been a long time since I'd seen any of his videos, so I took a look at what he had to say on the topic of gay marriage. Now, to Lee's great credit, he is in favor of legalizing gay marriage, but somehow he managed to make every other point one that I just couldn't let stand unchallenged.
But first I want to talk about Barack Obama and the abject hypocrisy coming from liberals and the Democratic Party. Why? Because when Barack Obama is asked the direct question how he defines marriage, he defines it only as it's only defined as a union between one man and one woman. That is Barack Obama's position, which is no different from most people in the Republican Party. Yet the Republican Party is treated as they're anti-gay, and Barack Obama is given a pass.
Okay, let's see how we might forgive Obama on this issue, even though we disagree with him. Well, for starters, gay marriage isn't the only issue that matters in the realm of gay rights. There was also Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which Obama fought to overturn in favor of gays serving openly in the military like they can in any other profession. Good old John McCain, Obama's 2008 opponent, you'll recall, was one of the major forces behind the opposition in overturning it, even going back on his earlier promise that if the Pentagon brass backed it, then he would too. Then you have the Clinton-era Defense of Marriage Act, or DOMA, which Obama had the Department of Justice stop defending in court last year. This last president certainly never did that. Do you think Romney, Santorum, or Newt would have done that, given that none of those three even support civil unions? Not a chance. So let's not pretend their positions are equivalent to Obama's.
I'm for gay marriage. I've always been for gay marriage. My position has never changed on it. I don't understand why, well, I do understand, but I don't understand why this is a litmus test for so many people. I really believe that there are a lot of conservatives who are for gay marriage. I've talked to them. I know a lot of gays who are obviously for gay marriage, but they're actually conservative or libertarian, and they vote on a litmus test of people who seem to be most for the gay issues, and they put everything else aside. And I think practically the Republican Party should actually come out front and center in favor of gay marriage, not just civil unions.
I agree that they should, Lee, and if they did, this debate would have been over years ago, as practically every state would have it by now. I don't doubt that you've met plenty of libertarian-leaning conservatives that are for it, but as a whole, most conservatives are very much against it. As for a litmus test by gays, I can kinda understand why they would have a problem voting for someone that's against gay marriage, and especially ones that are against even civil unions, because many of these politicians see gays as literally harmful to society. How do you vote for someone that has an irrational fear of how you were born? I think that would be difficult, don't you? Oh, and while you're talking litmus tests, you may want to think about one of the major reasons that many people are against gay marriage, and how closely that group is hitched up to the Republican wagon. I can't seem to remember what group that is. I know it'll come to me, though, eventually. If I could just...
But I wish they would come along to my side, I understand there are religious issues involved in this, but we don't have all laws in government dictated based on religion. Certain government laws allow things that would go against certain religions, but in their private religious institutions, you can do what you want. It doesn't force religious institutions to force them to have gay marriage.
Ah, so you do understand the religious issue that is stunting the growth of the fiscal conservative vote. I think the argument you put forth is perfectly reasonable, but if you think this is ever going to placate the religious right, then you're giving them a lot more credit than they deserve. This is a group where about half of them still think Obama's a Muslim in disguise and was born in Kenya or Indonesia or pretty much anywhere but the United States. In some southern states, about a third of Republican primary voters also believe that interracial marriage should be illegal. These are not reasonable people, Lee. I admire your optimism, I do, but I'd love to see you walk into these churches run by some of those nuts like the guy that hosted Santorum recently in Louisiana and try to tell them that gay marriage isn't a big deal. I can tell you exactly what the reaction is going to be.
You don't like the way we do things? I got one thing to say. Get out!
A lot of what took place during the Civil Rights Act was actually Republicans wanting to remove discrimination from all forms of government. Republicans took the lead on this, which is why there were many African American Republicans, or black Republicans, throughout United States history. the Republicans were the party of civil rights. But basically what took place behind the scenes through legislative deals is that Republicans got basically destroyed in the back room. They really weren't very good at the negotiations, and they lost miserably. And the public perception after John F. Kennedy died was that the Democrats were in favor of the civil rights while the Republicans weren't. And for forever after that, the parties have basically, the perception with the public is that it's switched.
Ah, those poor misunderstood Republicans. You're right that at the beginning of the Civil Rights era especially, the Democrats were the dominant party in the Southeast where racism was strongest, and many of them were very racist. When Democrats decided that civil rights needed to be on their national platform, and especially after the Democrat-led Civil Rights Act, many Southern Democrats jumped ship from the party and became Republicans. Some of the most famous anti-civil rights race baiters made the switch through the decades, like Strom Thurmond, Jesse Helms, and even David Duke. If Southern Republicans had rejected these Democrat cast-offs, then they would have been discarded in the dustbin of history. But when Nixon employed his Southern strategy of courting poor rural whites through fear of blacks, they saw a path to power, just like courting evangelical Christians in the 80s to the present. They slept with these dogs by choice, with the fleas to show for it, so I don't think they're going to be backing gay marriage anytime soon either. But if you think you can convince them, then good luck.
Get out!